Hello, everyone. It's great to have you on this PFC public consultation webinar. My name is Hubert Inheiser. I'm a technical officer at PFC International, and I will be your host today. And it's really my pleasure to introduce you to the Finnish Forest Certification System. The last webinar we had was the Australian system. Now we travel back to Europe and we listen to this Nordic country and their forest certifications system. There will be 3 agenda items today, like with the rest of the webinars. I will deliver at the start a short introduction about PFC International, and then we will continue with a more detailed presentation delivered by PFC Finland about the presentation of the Finnish Forest Certification System. And at the end, there will be time for questions and answers to clarify if there will be a need for it. So with this short introduction, let's start with the PFC International. For those who doesn't know, the acronym stands for Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification Systems. We are an alliance of independent national forest certification systems under the umbrella of PFC International. The national forest certification systems are all based on PFC sustainability benchmark standards or international standards. This is a voluntary mechanism promoting sustainable forest management through independent third-party certification. We are very proud that we are the world's largest forest certification system and provider of 3/4 of the world's certified sustainably managed timber. On this map, you can see our global coverage and the associated certified areas in millions of hectares and the number of chain of custody certificates according to these regions. And let's just to prepare the ground for PFC Finland colleagues. The Finland Forest Certification System was submitted in February this year, last month, for assessment. The PFC assessment is carried out by an independent assessor, yet to be appointed. And part of this assessment process, we facilitate a 60 days international public consultation. The links are in the presentation, but you can access the public consultation platform easily on the pfc.org website. All these comments submitted to the PFC International during this public consultation will be considered by the assessor in the assessment report. So we strongly encourage all stakeholders to study the Finnish Forest Certification System if they didn't do it until now and submit their comments. The public consultation was opened today, so on 14th of March, and we expect these comments to be submitted by 12th of May. And that was it from my side. And I'm very, very happy to have here PFC Finland, who will talk about the Finnish Forest Certification System. And now I would like to ask Auvo from Finland to join us. I will stop sharing my screen and hand it over to you, Auvo. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now do my best to share my screen with you, and I hope it goes like this. Did I manage to do that?
Absolutely. Your screen is visible for the participants. You can carry on, Auvo. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself about this. Yes, nice to be here. I will have a short, I would call an introduction to PFC system in Finland and the revision period that we just finalized in the beginning of this year. So I'm Auvo Kaivola from the PFC Finland, so that is the national governing body in Finland. We are also known as Finnish Forest Certification Council. Actually, a very long time ago, we were named only by that, but nowadays we are clearly PFC Finland. I work as a national secretary in our office. So today, this is what I have to plan to have with you. So first, couple of remarks of Finnish forestry as a whole, then Finnish PFC system, what is its structure and what are the core documentation we have, then revision process of sustainable forest management standard, and then the other important part of our system, so the implementation of PFC on the ground, so in Finnish forestry. There we have options. There are options either to do it as group certification or as an individual certification. In the headline, you can find the name of one of our core documentation, so the Sustainable Forest Management Standard. It is this PEFC FI 1002. In that document, we have actually quite a long introduction to Finnish forestry. I think it is about 15 pages long. And there you find the topics that we have included in that introduction. The introduction is part of the standard, and it was elaborated. This introduction was elaborated by the same body, same organizations that also decided the content of Sustainable Forest Management Standard. We found it very important to have also this introduction. First, it was there to give all the participants of the standard setting working group a good understanding what forestry is about in Finland. Some of the members of the group, they were acquainted with these issues. Some of them were there on board for the first time. So if I mention just shortly these titles here, of course, the forest resource, how much forest, what sort of forest we have, what is the growth of the forest, and so on. That is important. Forest biodiversity is discussed in this introduction. It's very essential part of forestry and also of the work of this standard setting working group. This covers also structural features that are supported in forestry nowadays. Conservation areas, they are discussed in the document. Voluntary protection, it means that it's not only forest certification as a voluntary instrument in Finland, but there are some governmental protection systems also that are based on voluntary participation of private forest owners, for example. We are rich in ground and surface waters in Finland, but they are getting more and more important as an issue. Then forest and climate, the connection that they have. Then, of course, what is the ownership of forests in Finland? Legislation. In this standard, there is a list of 42 pieces of legislation that are important for forestry. They are there also to guide all forestry players. Planning the management and use of forests. There are some governmental activities that are discussed there. Forest resource data, it belongs to the same issue. During the recent revision 5-6 years ago, this metsään.fi service was just launched. Now it is in full use, so it gives all forest owners in Finland a good understanding what kind of forest property they have, what kind of stands they have in their property, and so on. It is also offered by one governmental body. There are many kinds of services to forest owners and guidance. offered by private forestry organizations and governmental ones. Multiple use of forest is very important, especially during these coronavirus times. Recreational purposes, recreational use of forests have been even more emphasized than earlier. Then we have a couple of special issues. In the northern Finland, reindeer husbandry is a special issue, and in the uppermost Finland, in Upper Lapland, we have indigenous people, Sami people there. Forest sector offers jobs, that is discussed in the documentation. Then, of course, also organizations and research organizations and different inventories are explained there. Then I have picked just a couple of details from this whole introduction. So first, one of the basic but fundamental issues in Finland is the ownership of the forests. There are a lot of forests in Finland. The coverage of forests, it is on the level of 75%, and Finnish forestry is dominated by private forest owners. There in the graph it is called non-industrial private forest owners. Ownership in that category, it is spread to many, I would say to all sorts of Finns. They can be pensioners, they can be in different occupations. Some of them are still farmers and entrepreneurs, and you can name any such category and there will be quite a good number of forest owners. So ownership of private forests is distributed, one might say, in a very democratic way in Finland. Then there are, of course, also state forests. 1/4 of Finnish forests are owned by the state, but half of that figure, they are protected areas. So it's only part of this state forests that are utilized commercially also. Companies, forest industry companies, they own only less than 10% of forest lands. And then there are, of course, other forest owner groups, municipalities, parishes, you name it, many sorts of different forest owners. But as a whole, there's a huge number of Finns who own forest land. There is one figure saying that 300,000 family forest owners are there in Finland. And when knowing that the Finnish population is only 5.5 million people, so it's a very big group of them. There are a lot of decision makers in Finnish forestry sector. There we have the graph explaining the growth increment of Finnish forests, and then the drain, so how much forests are utilized, harvested, and this drain covers also wood that is naturally dying there in the forests. So we have such long time span for this kind of inventories. So those inventories date back to 100 years, as you can see from this graph. So there is more wood in Finnish forest than at least in 100 years and for many hundreds of years. So it gives a very good starting point also to the forestry, as well as considering how to take into account different ecological issues in forestry. So there is plenty of wood, and as we can see, the forests are not utilized economically as much as the growth is. And of course, that's the way to have it. Forests are there for many different reasons, for economical reasons, but also for ecological reasons, and we shall never forget the recreational use of forests neither. Then just a couple of details about these ecological, special and important ecological issues that we have. So first, dead wood is one of the important issues. Also there, we are very happy that we have such we have had such inventories for a long time, but that we have such figures as this one, for example. Dead wood was one of the issues that was discussed a lot in the standard setting working group. And then when it comes to tree species of Finnish forests, one might say that we are poor in tree species in Finland. So as native tree species, we have Pinus sylvestris, Picea abies, and then two different birches, silver birch and what is the other one? It is anyway another beech species also. So they are the four tree species that have a large scale importance in forest industries, for example. But then we have some 25 or 30 broad-leaved species, and some of them are very important because of ecological reasons, and aspen is one of them. And volume of aspen is growing and will continue to grow in future also in Finnish forests. We don't have any exotic species in Finland. There are only, one might say, small stands that some people that have been interested in exotic species have been planted, but Picea abies, Pinus sylvestris, and these two birches they form the vast majority of our forest resource. There is a wide range of different forest management methods that are utilized nowadays, and it is very logical because there's such a large number of forest owners as well, the decision makers there. So there must be, and there are different options of which then each of the forest owners can decide which one to take into use. And once more, it's good to emphasize the role of multifunctional use of forests. Everyone's rights are there in place in Finland, and the role of recreation and other outdoor activities, collecting berries and mushroom, they are important. Nowadays also already to some extent also by economical terms. So it's not only recreation, but they have value also for some entrepreneurs and businesses. So that was very short introduction to Finnish forestry, and then there we see which parts of what is the core documentation of PFC system in Finland. So we have 5 standards, PFC FI something, and actually the numbering is very logical, 1000, 1001, 1002. Then it seems that something is missing, and it is due to the reason that a long time ago we had different standards for individual certification, group certification, and regional group certification. So we used to have 1003 and 1004 as well, but not anymore. Then PFC chain of custody, standard is utilized in Finland as well as PFC trademarks rules. Most of our industries, and one might say almost all companies that have exporting activities, they have PFC chain of custody certificates. From ST 2002 and ST 2001, we have bilingual documentation for the purposes of companies where only Finnish language is used. It is clearly said in those documentation that it is the English version that counts, but the Finnish version is there for informative reasons. And then we have, of course, we have procedures for PFC logo licensing and notification of certification bodies. And all this documentation in the first box, these PFC FI documents, they were now revised. You can also see it from the numbering of the years. Right. Then who is who in Finnish PFC system? In the green boxes, you can find PFC Finland, the body that I am representing, and we initiated the standard setting, the setting of sustainable forest management standard. But the work was done by an independent and self-governing body. We call it standard setting working group. And this was the fourth revision now that took place during the recent years. This structure has stayed the same. This very slide has stayed almost the same for the past 20 years. Then it is there just to remind everybody that the actual certification process, it's a process between certification bodies and holders of certificates. So between these blue boxes here below. All right, then I will explain shortly the standard setting process that took place recently. It started in 2019, and actually it was some of the parts took place only this year, so it took more than 2 years to run the whole process. Launch of the process that was carried out by PFC Finland. Then I will explain the work of the standard setting working group. Then it was back to PFC Finland, then to approve the final draft, and then we sent the application to PFC Council last year. In the beginning of 2019, we made a gap analysis whether we start the process or not. Well, it was a very easy decision. One reason there was that some of the core documentation of PFC Council were changed, and of course we must adapt now the standards also to Finnish practices. In March 2019, the board of PFC Finland approved the standard setting process standard, then also stakeholder mapping and these other procedures that deal with the stakeholders were taken care of. And then in March, we had a public invitation for everybody to participate in the process, and then invitations to all stakeholders were sent out. To all stakeholders means all the stakeholders that we were able to recognize as such organizations that could be interested in the issue that was on the table of the standard setting work group. And then we had a very good, our invitation was received very nicely, and then it was decided when the inaugural meeting will take place. There was no comments. We received no comments about the scope of the standard or the process as such. So it was carried out according to the standard PFC FI 1006 and according to the guidance that we had in the invitation letter. We invited 80 organizations. That was the amount of organizations that we were able to recognize in Finland. It was a strange period of time. I mean, starting when the process started in 2019 and now was finally finalized in the beginning of this year. So we were able to start the meetings face to face, but then after 1 year, so in the spring of 2020, everything went to online. But it was good that all the people were able to get to know each other in the first meetings of the process. There in the middle, we can see those two gentlemen. The other one is the secretary of the process. So it was PFC Finland who offered funding to cover the costs of the secretary. And then there's a Professor Paavo Pelkonen who was chairing the working group. He was an emeritus professor from University of Eastern Finland, and very well known by everybody in this field, in the issues that deal with forestry in Finland. It is highlighted up there with yellow color, the website where all the documentation that the standard setting working group had, it was updated, that website continuously, and all that information is there also at this point of time. So the work started in June 2019. And as you can see from here, we had two commenting periods. That's what we have had for actually in all the previous revision procedures also. So 30 plus 30 is 60. So there were two commenting periods of 30 days. We find it a good solution to really have possibilities for different kinds of stakeholders and private people to have their inputs to the process. Yes, so the first draft version was ready in early 2020. We had a public seminar there in person in that time still. And then after that seminar, the working group started to discuss all the comments. As a whole, there were more than 900 comments based on these two commenting periods. The working group, it had subgroups, you could call them thematic groups. The working group, it had presentations from researchers, and it has had this huge number of comments from different organizations and private people. There were good ideas coming in from the commenting period. Some, at least some of them were included in the final draft. So very, very interesting comments. And of course, there were comments supporting some ideas, some not supporting some new ideas that there were in the draft versions. So then after the second draft version, there was a clear view to work towards the final version that was then finally decided in the beginning of last year. Then there was a process where it was discussed that is there still needs and possibilities to continue the discussion after the January meeting. But finally, it turned out that was not possible. So then the final draft was finally closed the 1st of November last year. So it was the 19th meeting of the working group. And there is the list of 64 organizations that participated the process as members. Then in addition, there was this comments and other participation activities for stakeholders and all Finns. Then couple of I find this interesting, this couple of examples here. So first one was that PFC Finland facilitated a study during the process to make the standard setting working group understand how big, what size of changes there are now offered in the draft versions. It was an impact assessment that took place first in year 2020, and then it was widened and finalized in 2021. And this information for the participants of the working group and also for the public. You find the names of the research organizations from here. This was very useful for the members of participants of the standard setting working group. And here is one detail. So about the methodology that was used there. So for example, GIS analysis was used there to find out how much buffer zones, what is the number, the buffer zones in hectares, what is that according to the present PFC requirements and the proposed new ones. So I think it was very advanced method that was used there, and it gave a very accurate and also reliable information. First, how much such watersheds we have in Finland that are covered by the PFC requirements, and then what is their role, what is their size in hectares, and also in cubic meters when it comes to the limited harvesting methods that can be utilized on those buffer zones. So the outcome of this process was then the final draft, and we introduced this high-level structure there. We have an annex for plantation forests that covers Christmas tree and conifer greenery plants. There was a plan to cover also trees outside forests, but finally there were interests, but there were not finally resources enough among the working group to really have that there also. So it is not included in the standard. So PFC Finland received all documentation from the working group in late November last year. Then we did technical editing and we created this layout. We were mandated by the standard setting working group to do that exercise. So we did not change any texts decided by the working group, and we did not change the introduction part neither, but we elaborated these other technical parts, so to say. Then it was recommended, when we have studied the outcome, this standard, and the process, then the board of our organization recommended to the you could call it General Assembly of our organization to approve this final draft version, and that's what happened. And right after that, we published the draft. Just an example here. So now when we launched the high-level structure, it will be more laborious for us in terms of communications, because we must explain, we must now have other documentation to explain the content of the standard for the forest owners, for example. The structure, that a high-level structure, it is totally different than we have had this far. And there are plenty of minor changes in wording, as you can see from here. So that is for us to continue with now already during the assessment process. Then shortly about the intro, how PFC is introduced, implemented in Finnish forestry. And there you find a list of forest certificates in Finland. Actually, there's only 5 of them at the moment. 3 of them are regional group certificates, and 2 of them are individual certificates for large-scale forest owners. And in the graph, you find the development of coverage of PFC certification in Finland. There used to be also, we used to have also ordinary group certificates, but now they have merged one after one, or one after, all of them have been merged into these 3 regional group certificates. So our revision covered also the group forest management standard and other PFC FI standards as shown here. So this group management standard, it was revised by PFC Finland. So some experts who know very well the international PFC standard and the concept of group certification in Finland, so that standard was revised by such experts. And of course, also this vocabulary standard and requirements for certification bodies. And the approval and publication of these documents, it followed the same timeline as the Sustainable Forest Management Standard. So in that standard, we have a regional group certification, and then I wonder how to say it in a simple way in English, but group certification that is other than regional group certification. So that's what I meant by using the term ordinary group certification. Regional group certification is extraordinary in that sense that I hope you can see the tables, this graph here. It is also from the standard, so you can find it there. So in regional group certification, there are forest owners as participants. They can join the group through either by enrolling themselves directly or as members or forest management associations, or represented by forest industry companies or by some other organizations. So there's an idea that there must be different ways of participation to make it possible for all the private forest owners to participate also regional group certification if they wish to do that. Of course, the participation is on voluntary basis. What is extraordinary in this concept is that we have also wood buyers and forest entrepreneurs as participants of group certification. It shows the big role of, if you know the concept of stumpage sales, for example, so sales method where it is not the forest owner but a wood buyer who is responsible for the quality of the work. So this reflects that fact in Finnish forestry. So also the sustainable forest management requirements, they do not apply only to forest owners, but also to wood buyers and forest entrepreneurs who offer their services to PFC certified forests. This model has been there for a long time in Finland, but now the requirements were revised. The standard was revised to meet the requirements of PFC International standards. So, kiitos, thank you for your time, and this was this short introduction about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auvo, for this very detailed and very excellent presentation. You can stop sharing your screen now, I think. And now I would like to ask for those who are with us if they have any questions for clarification. Well, maybe until they think about a question, I would have two clarifications for you, Auvo. One of them would be that this is very interesting, this 3 regional group certifications you are maintaining in different in the various parts of Finland. And I just wanted to ask that, can you give us an idea on how many participants you have in these 3 regional certificates?
Right. I think the number, so there was an acronym KMY in one of the slides. So that is the holder of those regional group certificates. So we, as PFC Finland, we don't have the records of participants, for example. They are only for the certificate holder. But in total in Finland, there are some 240,000 members in out of those, well, depending how you define the forest owner, out of those 600,000, or actually a better number would be 240,000 forest owners out of 350,000. So that is our coverage in terms of the number of forest owners. There are a lot of small-scale forest owners that are not covered by us. Then, of course, some forest owners have not had necessarily any forestry activities there, or then they have some of them may have preferred another certification system instead of PEFC.
Excellent. No, thank you very much. I think it's clear. And another one, which I think is very interesting, what you mentioned about these forest entrepreneurs being involved directly and indirectly in the process. And I just wanted to ask for this clarification whether these forest entrepreneurs, when they enter into group certification, are they able to implement activities outside of PFC certified forest as well, or only in PFC certified areas?
Right. They are free to offer their services to anybody in Finland, whether they are PFC certified or not. And some of them also operate in other countries, not only in Finland. So the commitment to follow the requirements of PFC, they what is the word? They are committed to follow PFC requirements as and if they work in PFC forests.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. I don't see anybody else having a need for clarification question? Well, I think myself, it was also very well detailed, and thank you very much again, Auvo, for preparing this for us today. And if there is no further questions, then I would like to thank again our participants to joining us today and our viewers. And again, I will thank you very much for the excellent work you put together for us today. And I wish you a nice rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hubert. Thank you, others. Thank you. Bye-bye.